Hey, welcome back everyone. Today I would like to discuss sales reporting with you. We have a question that came in a few days ago from Corey, who would like to build a sales report using Excel and Velixo. He's looking to analyze sales by customer by month, sales by customer by SKU, and so on. This is something that will require a generic inquiry. So what I will do first is log into Acumatica and take a look at my inquiries. Before starting this video, I just double check to make sure that we do not have anything already built into Acumatica. So together we will be building this inquiry. And don't worry if things get a bit too technical for you. I will be sharing the full generic inquiry at the end of this video. So the starting point that we have for this inquiry is the invoices and memos inquiry that is built into Acumatica. So what we want to do basically is to link this inquiry with the invoice line details so that we can build a report that will give us sales by customer and by SKU. So what I will do first is enter edit mode and take a look at the different tables that are used. That's fairly simple. We have AR invoice and B account. So B account is the business account. So in this case, it's basically the customer. And it's just displaying customer ID and account name. So actually we may be able to make things a lot simpler and just use AR invoice as a starting point. So let's create a new inquiry and call that AR sales analysis. We'll make this visible on the UI because we want to expose it via OData later on. And for now, let's just add one table, AR invoice. Let's click save. And then let's add a few columns in the result grid. So we will definitely need to look at the document type. So we have invoices, but we also have credit memos, debit adjustments, cash sales. So this will have to be included one way or the other. Well, you know what? Cash sales. I'm not sure we will be getting cash sales here if we use the AR invoice table. So we may have to change strategy right away. So let's just save it this way. Click view inquiry and just see what we are getting back. Okay. It's strange. A bunch of them have the type column blank. So what happens if I click here? Where will that send me? Could that be a cash sale? Yeah, it's indeed a cash sale. So we are getting back cash sales. It just seems like the type column that is displayed here is not showing us the type correctly. But that's not a big deal because we are probably going to be summarizing this data for performance reasons. I'm not sure that we actually want to get a dump of every single transaction. Okay, so AR invoice type, then we have the reference number. Let's add the date. I do know it's doc date. There's a few date fields that are actually a bit confusing. There's invoice date, but the one we are looking for is actually called doc date. This is something that is worth mentioning as well. People often wonder where they can get a data dictionary or just see a list of all the fields used in a page. There's a very simple technique that you can use if you want to identify the internal or underlying field name for anything on the screen. If you have the customization role linked to your profile, you can use the inspect element option from the customization menu to see the actual field name of anything on screen. So the date field, for example, if I click, it will tell me that this is the doc date field of the AR invoice data class. So that's very, very convenient. Let's add customer ID. Let's add the customer name so we can get it here from customer ID underscore description. And then we need to get the detail lines. So the detail lines are in the AR trend table. Okay, so you can figure this out by yourself by using, again, customization inspect, and then by clicking on any line that you have here. So it will tell you, for example, this is artrend.trend desk for description. So let's add the AR trend. Since I'm running a recent version of Acumatica, I am able to use the add related table button. So this is an enhancement that I believe was introduced in Acumatica 2020 R2 or 2021 R1. It basically shows you all the related tables, and it lets you pick one very easily. So I already know that it's AR trend. You can just click select related table, click add, and it will add the table, but also set up the relations for me. So I don't need to know how to link both tables. The system does it for me. So at this point, I have AR invoice and AR trend. What I would like to do as well is to link the AR trend table to the inventory item table. So I'll tell you why we will be doing this. This is to allow people to report based, for example, on the item class. So if you want to create a report that shows sales by item class, you will be able to do that. The item class is something that is available in the inventory item table. So let's go back to my GI here, click add related table, and look for inventory item. Right here, select related table, and then click add. Perfect. Now let's add the columns that we need. So I'll get AR trend dot inventory ID. Let's get the description as well. So this is going to return the default description of the. Actually, no, I'm wrong. This is going to return. No, this is I'm sorry. This is the default description of the inventory item. If we want what was set at the line level, it would be trend description. But for now, let's just use a default description at the item level to make groupings easier. Let's look for the quantity. Okay, so two things here. As you can see, we have like 3 quantity fields, but let's focus on the first two, base quantity and quantity. The reason you see 2 fields here is because Acumatica lets you set up sales units for products with conversion by sales unit. So let's say you're selling a box of eggs. So 1 box would contain 12 eggs. So if you just display the quantity field, you would see 1 when actually you sold 12 eggs. So it's up to you. When you create an invoice, you might want to display stock items, not inventory, so stock items here. Yeah, so if you're building an invoice, you might want to display that you sold 1 box. But if you are reporting on total sales, it will be important to display the total units sold. Otherwise, you might be adding boxes to cases, to 12 packs, and so on. Okay, so this is the unit of measure that you can set here at the item level. This one shows a box of 10 and a pallet. That is 100. Okay, so back to my GI. Base quantity is really the field that I need. This is going to show me the actual number of units that were sold, irrespective of the unit of measure that was selected. So base quantity. And then I want the extended price. So that's actually, we have extended price and we have, no, this is extended price. I thought we had line amount as well, but we do have unit price, we have unit cost, and we have the discount, and then we have the extended price. Once again, there's 2 columns with the word extended price. And The reason for that is multi-currency support. In Acumatica, you can have clients and deal with customers in as many currencies as you want. So Acumatica needs to store the amount in the customer's currency and the amount in the company base currency. Again, since we're creating a sales report and we will be summing up clients that may be in multiple countries, it makes sense to report on the base currency. So in this case, it's US dollars, and the base currency field would always be the one without Curie. So Curie stands for currency, basically. So that's the extended price. And the cost, it could be helpful to have the cost too. So let's search for cost. So we have unit cost and we have trend cost. So I believe trend cost is the total cost, but we should check just to be sure. And what else? What else? I mentioned the item class. So let's get the item class here. Item class ID. And then click save. Okay. As a general rule, I always set captions on my generic inquiries that I want to use with Velixo. And this is to ensure that we have consistent naming. If you don't set a caption, Acumatica will show you the user visible title and use that for your inquiry field names that will be retrieved from Excel. So this can sometimes get a bit difficult and confusing to use, especially if, let's say, Acumatica decides to make a slight change to the name, so that could break your inquiry in Excel. So it's very easy just to set your own names here. So that's in the caption column on the right side. So I will just enter something. So customer name, inventory ID, description, quantity, price, cost, and item class ID. So that should be enough. And let's click view inquiry. Okay. I think we have pretty much everything that we need. There's like two things that I think will be left before we can retrieve that in Excel. The first thing being to check the invoice status. So we only want to return invoices that are released. We don't want anything that is on hold. And right now, if you see, so we have 7855. So let's search for 7855 here. Oh, that's interesting. Why did I see it here and not here? 7855. I don't have any filters. Okay, that's really puzzling. So we need to figure out what's going on here. I would expect this to show up in my inquiry. Oh, I know why. Let's open the invoice. Yeah, there's no inventory ID in this one. And since I set up an inner join to the inventory item table, it's basically failing to match with any inventory item, and this transaction doesn't get returned. So it's a good catch. I'm glad we found that. So let's fix it. Go to my relations and then change the inner join that we have here to a left join. Okay, so this will basically mean that I want to get all the invoice lines and optionally match with an inventory item on the right hand side. So left join, this is basically what it means. So everything on the left and whatever we can find on the right hand side of the join. So let's click view inquiry. Sort by date. Yeah, so now it is showing up. But I do want to remove this because it's on hold. So to do that, I will go back to my inquiry and under conditions, I will look for released equals, oops, yeah, release equals checked, like that. View inquiry. And I believe that now it's gone. Yeah. Okay, we do have one more thing to fix in this inquiry. And if you've been following, I think you might be able to figure out what's wrong. So let's take a look at these two lines. So you can see that we have an invoice here, 2,000 units, extended price 2,200, and extended cost $1,676. And then we have a credit right above it, and it's also showing as a positive number. So what do you think will happen if we sum everything together? Well, you are right. The system will basically add the invoice to the credit. So that's a problem. So we need to do something and have some sort of formula that will invert all three columns that you see here. So let's go back to the GI, and in the data field here for the quantity column, let's open the formula editor. So I need to look at the doc type. So I need to do equal if my doc type is equal to credit memo. So I think it's CRM. We need to use the internal value. So there's a few ways you can find that. It's in the schema editor. You can also use SQL if you happen to have that. Unfortunately, I don't expect non-developers to have that, but this is how I usually figure out the different types I need to use for my formulas. You may also see these being used in other inquiries. So sometimes you can learn just by looking at other inquiries. But in my case, I would generally open the table and then do something like that. Select distinct doc type from AR invoice, run, and that gives me all the types. So this one is invoice, credit memo, cash sales. I think this is debit memo, financials charge, and SMC. That's a new one. I've never seen that. Okay, so CRM is what I'm looking for. So if it's CRM, I basically want to multiply the quantity by -1, if not 1. Does that work? Oh, single quotes. So I need single quotes here. And I need my base quantity field right before. So base quantity multiplied by that. And let's do the same thing with the extended price. And let's do the transaction cost. By the way, that's one more reason why you will need to set the captions. If you don't, if you don't set the caption and have a formula, the system is going to have a hard time figuring out how to name this column. It looks like I still have an error. It says unsupported operator. Let's go to logical. Where is it? Well, it's if, IIF, not if, so let's fix it. IIF, IIF as well. Let's click save and view our inquiry. Yay, so now we have negative quantities and amounts for this line. As you can see, the formatting now is incorrect. That's because we introduced a formula. So if we want to have the numbers and amounts formatted just like they were before, we need to define the schema field right here. So we're basically going to set it to the original field. So I have my base quantity, my extended price field, and the trend cost field. All right. At this point, we're able to take this inquiry and load it into Excel. I still want to make some changes, but we will do that in part 2 of this video. For now, let's just load it as is and see if it works as expected in Excel. So I'll just copy the inquiry title, go to a new spreadsheet, and set up a connection to my Acumatica system. And once I'm connected, I will use the GI function to retrieve the contents of this generic inquiry. Okay, so let's do equal GI. Press enter, and we should see in the status bar that the system is loading. And here we go. So we have all the lines, and notice that the system also returned the internal transaction types at the same time. This is because the trend type is part of the key fields for the table, so in case you cannot find the internal values yourself, you could simply use Excel to dump that. In part 2 of this video, we will be improving the inquiry by adding incremental refresh. This is what we call smart refresh in Velixo. I will also add grouping. We only care about the total sales by customer by day, so we can trim down this inquiry further if we want. And finally, and more importantly, we will be building pivot tables and other charts to analyze this data right inside Excel. Stay tuned.